Broadcasting from the Business RadioX studio in Alpharetta, it's time for ProfitSense with Bill McDermott.
Good morning. Welcome to ProfitSense. This podcast dives into the stories behind some of Atlanta's successful businesses and business owners and the professionals that advise them. We help local business leaders get the word out about the important work they're doing to serve their market, their community, and their profession, as well as discuss current issues that business owners are facing today across a wide variety of industries. I'm your host, Bill McDermott, and this show is presented by the Profitability Coach. When business owners want to increase their profitability, they don't have the expertise to know where to start or what to do. I leverage my knowledge and relationships from 32 years as a banker to identify the hurdles getting in the way and create a plan to deliver profitability they never thought possible. We have two great guests on the show today. Bradley Carroll, who's CFO of Progressive Lighting. Bradley, welcome to ProfitSense.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And Gary Clayton. Gary is a partner with Superior Business Management. Gary, welcome to ProfitSense.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
So, Bradley, we're going to start with you. You know, I know you've made a change recently, and so you've been CFO of Progressive Lighting for a while, but there are really some challenges of moving from service provider to an in-house practitioner. Can you talk a little bit about your journey there?
Yeah, so very interestingly, the short story is that Progressive Lighting was a client of mine as a service provider, and apparently it was pretty good service. They just asked me to stay.
Wow, that's great. Yeah,
so it was something unexpected, and again, not really what I had been looking for or had envisioned myself doing. But as I was talking with John earlier, that what I really liked when I was at Frazier and Dieter was the client service side of it, and I get to do that all the time now. I have one client, and I get to be 100% client service. And for the shared services division that I run, that is my mantra, is that the rest of this building, the rest of our stores, those are our clients, and we need to have that mentality and service them.
Yeah, and so there's a little bit of a mindset involved there in looking at your divisions as clients. So was that much of a mind shift for you, or something that you had to implement in their operating system?
Yeah, it wasn't for me, because half my career has been on that side, on the service provider side. But it has been a mind shift for people who are coming in and for some legacy employees that were there when I arrived. So it has been a little bit of a shift. I can tell you that the management of other divisions loves the approach. Our CEO loves the approach, because that's just how we have to be to make the rest of the company successful. You are our clients. We're here to service you. How can we help?
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking this morning with Bradley Carroll, who's CFO of Progressive Lighting, Inc. and VP of Shared Services. Bradley's a seasoned financial professional, having had a diverse career spanning internal audit, banking, manufacturing, logistics, income tax, financial statement audits, and building and selling a CPA firm that still operates today. And so I want to talk a little bit about VP of Shared Services. Bradley, what does VP of Shared Services encompass?
Well, that was something I had to learn after we started talking about me taking the CFO role. It was a little bit more expanded. I had thought I'd take accounting and deal with that, but shared services encompasses financial planning and analysis. Mm-hmm. Our ERP system is NetSuite, so it's our NetSuite administration team. It is our accounting team. It is our IT team. It is our inventory control team. It is our data management and analysis team, and they gave me HR.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes.
So were you prepared for all of that?
No, sir. HR was the one that concerned me the most, to be quite honest with you. I mean, as an auditor, I've audited all these different areas, so I'm familiar with them. But HR it's a very narrow lane, and if something goes wrong, it can be very wrong. So my third day there, the payroll specialist they had resigned because her husband was transferred to Texas, and so this was my biggest concern, and now I'm rudderless. Very fortunate that having been in the CPA field, I had made a lot of contacts, and I reached out to a contact who had been a payroll service provider, a PEO provider, had provided healthcare benefits. And I called Stuart Caldwell and said, I need a name. I need somebody to come and do this. And,
Sure.
And he said, I may be interested in that role. I said, come talk to me. And he's been there since I think August of last year, and has done an amazing job. So he was my first hire, and he's been a great hire. So that, and again, that's just using a career worth of contacts of who do I need to call about this?
Yeah, and that really gets into the power of relationships.
Absolutely.
You know, someone being in the banking profession for a while, being in the accounting profession for a while, you build up a network. And frankly, Bradley, it's all about relationships, isn't it?
It really is. And the diversity of my background has actually prepared me for this job. I really knew that this would be the capstone job for my career, but everything that I've done, the diversity of the industries and roles that I've had have really prepared me for this role without me even knowing it.
Yeah, it's funny how all of those things in your career seem to come together at a perfect moment.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your role as a service provider. First, what did you like best about your role as a service provider? And then maybe next, what do you take from that into your CFO role?
Yeah. Again, the client service. I really enjoy leaving it better than I found it. You know, that's a service provider win, is when you can come in and you can do that. Of course, there's other pressures on service providers. You've got to do it at a profitable rate. You've got to fight for staff and to try to get the right staff on your jobs. So there's a lot of different things that went into it. So the client service portion of it was what I really enjoyed, and now I get to do that. It's just, as I said earlier, for one client. Yeah. So it's the best of both worlds. But I have kept the approach of they're my clients, and instead of just this is a job I'm here to do, this is how I'm going to do it. I truly look at it at my sales team there at Progressive Lighting. They have their customers, and they work hard to be good providers to those customers. Well, that sales team is my customer, and so I'm working hard to make sure that they've got the policies, the procedures, the processes, the management reporting that is valuable to them, so that they can make decisions and do their job. And I've got a great team. I say me. I've got a great team behind me that's doing all of this.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes a village, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So we're talking this morning with Bradley Carroll with Progressive Lighting. Progressive Lighting is a family-owned business with a 50-year history. As the largest chain of residential lighting showrooms in the southeastern United States, Progressive Lighting has a national reputation for stylish and unique lighting fixtures, superior value, and unparalleled customer service. So I want to take you down a different track. You've mentioned interest in a board position, specifically audit committee. What interests you there?
When I was with State Bank, I was the chief audit executive at State Bank, which was a $5 billion bank. It's now part of the Cadence Network. And that I had direct reporting to the audit committee. And so I got exposed to a lot. And on that audit committee, when I first started, Archie Bransford was the audit committee chairman. He was the former ombudsman for the OCC. And then the co-chair, assistant chair, was Kelly Barrett, who was the director of audit at Home Depot. So I got challenged, and I felt like that made me a much better chief audit executive. And what I have seen is a lot of audit committees, quite frankly, just aren't that good. They're not as good as the audit committee I had. And so I'd like to change that. I think a lot of times audit committees focus on the financial risk and not the operational and compliance risks of companies. And so they're always looking for a Big Four, a former Big Four. Former Big Four means nothing if they don't know the IIA standards and they don't know the compliance and operational risk. I know all three, so I think I could provide some value there. Yeah,
I'm confident you could. So if any of our listeners out there might be looking for someone to serve in a board position or on an audit committee, then please, Gary Bradley's going to share his contact information, and maybe there's someone out there.
Absolutely.
So I want to shift the conversation over to logistics and sourcing from overseas. You know, we're having supply chain issues. It's a huge challenge. It's something I'm sure that you're dealing with in your business. Is the logistics and sourcing from overseas really as bad as we're hearing, Bradley?
It is. I mean, it really is. These are not excuses that companies are giving you. We have product that has been on order for 18 months, and it hasn't been manufactured yet. In lighting, by the time they ship some of this to us, that's now 2 model years old. And so we get it in and we sell it at a discount immediately. We have just experienced all kinds of things with the logistics. We have a 25% tariff on goods coming out of China, and that's just money we're throwing off the boat. I understand the reason behind the tariff was to punish China, but it's punishing small family-owned businesses like ours as well. And we can't pass those costs on to our customers. There's no way we can take a 25% price increase. We would go out of business if we did that. So the tariffs, the price of containers 2 years ago, it was $4,000 a container. I'm spending $17,000 per container right now to get goods shipped overseas. And the reason is supply and demand. And then if you look at any of the reports, you'll see at any time there's 70 boats off the coast of California just waiting to get a port slot. And luckily we come through Savannah, so it's not quite that bad, but they're still waiting. And then once they get the boats unloaded, the containers sit there on the docks waiting for a chassis to put them on. So it's until it gets to our door and we start unloading it, we can't count on it being there at any given time.
Yeah, one final question, and if I can ask this, there are a lot of businesses out there that maybe have a good controller, but that are thinking about either getting a part-time CFO or a full-time CFO. I'm just wondering if you could maybe share with our listening audience, based on your experience, Bradley, at what point in time should a business think about a part-time CFO, and then maybe even further, just like Progressive Lighting may have had a full-time CFO for some point in time, what are some of the things or the attributes of the business that really let you know that a full-time CFO is required?
I really think that it's a combination of things. You really have to talk to your controller because, and this is where Progressive Lighting went through. They were loading the controller up with a lot of things that were not geo-focused. And we have a great controller, Rolanda Barnes. But the first stipulation for me taking the job was Rolanda stays. Whatever we've got to do, Rolanda stays. She's a great controller, runs her team very well, but she was overworked. And it was, let's have Rolanda do this, let's have Rolanda do this. And it's some things that controllers don't want to do necessarily, but she's a good employee, so she was trying to handle it. CEO got to looking at, I'm running a lot more of the day-to-day operations of these different departments than I should be. I'm not able to function as a CEO. I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to do that. So you've got to look at responsibility creep for a couple of different positions. And Progressive did have a part-time CFO who was there 1 day a week, and she did great. She really gave them what they needed, but as the company continued to grow and mature, she was not interested in becoming a full-time CFO. And they just realized that, okay, at this point, it is really 1 day a week is project-based. There's no continuity, and we need this continuity. We need somebody who can take on bigger projects, deal with bigger issues, and that's how they decided that it's time for us to have a full-time CFO.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing you say is growth always increases the complexity of the organization.
Absolutely.
And so as those scope creeps that you talked about, the controller maybe had more duties than the controller could handle, even as good as they were. The CFO or the CEO, was being brought into a lot of those day-to-day operations. That kind of gave a recipe. This organization's become more complex. Mm-hmm. The division of the labor needs to be smaller, not bigger, and hence the role of a CFO.
Correct. And I'd like to point out our CEO is part of the family that owns the company. He's the son of the founder, Troy Lee. So he's worked at the company, I think, since he was 12. So as well as he's known this company, he still said, I'm too much into the operations, the day-to-day operations. And like I said, it's second nature to him.
Sure.
But he still realized that we need someone else to take over some of this.
Yeah, and really astute of him to realize that and actually take action on it.
Absolutely.
Bradley, if anybody has any CFO type questions, or maybe even is a potential client for Progressive Lighting, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you or get in touch with Progressive Lighting?
Yeah, so my direct line is 404-890-7531. And you can drop me an email at bcarroll@progressivelighting.com. That's BCARROLL@progressivelighting.com.
Yeah, Bradley, it's been a delight having you on and hearing your perspective. And thanks again for coming on ProfitSense today.
I appreciate it, Bill. Thank you very much.
We're going to now shift over to Gary Clayton. Gary's a partner at Superior Business Management. Gary, you've told me, I know in the past, that you're at your best when you act as a part-time CFO for entrepreneurs and business owners. Could you share how you help business owners enhance the value of their business?
Well, I've been with Superior about 7 years now as a part-time CFO and became a partner last year. And in doing that, one of the things it allows me to do is to work with our clients who are small businesses typically, or entertainers, or wealthy individuals. And what we try to do is we certainly provide accounting services and tax services to them, but we want to provide business advice and help them run a small business and be profitable and create wealth for themselves and their employees. So part of the challenge is to identify who they are as the relationship develops. We understand what their ultimate objectives are. Some people want to build a business quickly and sell it. Others want to generate long-term legacy type asset where they pass on to family members and that type thing. So it really depends on what the ultimate goal is how we really direct them. But the business principles that we try to articulate are really the same.
Well, I know because you and I have shared clients from time to time, you certainly add a lot of value to those relationships. But I'd really like to leverage maybe your expertise here in your experience. What do you feel like the keys to business success are for these closely held business owners that you serve?
I think it's certainly you need to have a competitive advantage in some aspect of business that but it becomes a matter then of creating an organization and a structure to support it. And basically, we've always worked with the principle that there are basically four foundational principles that you need, four professionals that you need. And one would be an attorney. You need good legal advice in this particular day and age. You need an insurance agent who you can trust and can do a good job for you. You need accounting to understand what you've done and how you're doing, and then you need financing. You need a banking relationships. We find many times in small business that the whole effort is chasing cash flow. Rather than ultimate profitability and building a business, they end up chasing cash flow. So underfinanced businesses are a problem, and they have to be treated a little differently.
Yeah, so this really kind of sounds to me like you're recommending that your clients have almost a personal board of advisors that covers insurance risk, accounting, all the legal aspects, and the finance aspects.
We try to cover the downside. We live in a litigious society, so you have to prepare yourself. And it's easy to sign agreements and things when everybody gets along, but they need to be in place while we're getting along. And because ultimately someone may die, or there may be a divorce, or there may be other issues that change the business relationship. And we want to have nailed that down and what happens before those things happen rather than after them. And certainly attorneys are cheaper when you work in advance with them and you have agreements to get signed and that type thing, rather than being in a litigious situation where you're defending yourself. That can get very expensive.
We're talking this morning with Gary Clayton, who's a partner with Superior Business Management. Gary serves business owners who need guidance in areas of finance and business operation, but who also may lack a formalized infrastructure and future growth plan. So, Gary, I want to take the conversation a little bit to challenges. So, business owners face many challenges. But in your experience, what are the major challenges that small businesses face?
I think the main thing we're finding right now in our business is qualified help. How do you find good people typically already have a job, they already are satisfied, so you have to have a competitive reason for them to come to want to work for you. And we have to explore their what they're good at, what they're not good at. We try to put various tests in place that we can explore their competency and this type of thing. It's very expensive to make a mistake with an employee, and so we do try to be very thoughtful with that, and efficient with it. But still, it's one of the most difficult things today, because accounting graduates coming out of Georgia and various schools are making $60,000, $70,000 as an entry level,
right?
And so we're having to raise prices and pay competitive wages and offer incentives that want them to come to work for us. Part of our success is a diverse client base that we've got. We do have some entertainers and various things that we account for. Some travel. There's some shows that we account for, which it's exciting stuff, because you're seeing a lot of neat things happen. But again, it's then we try to translate that into a financial statement and what it looks like and how they're doing and that type of thing. And so it's good for our employees to do it, but it's, what we do primarily at Superior then is to analyze those results and try to spot trends and that type of thing that we're doing.
Yeah, and so I'm hearing loud and clear, tight labor market. It's really hard to find help. That's a universal problem.
Yep.
But even further, finding the right people, especially in the accounting field, that can take those debits and credits, make sure they're categorized properly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and then that spits out reports. And I've found in my experience, Gary, I'm curious of yours, most business owners will look at their income statement. They might not look quite as much at their balance sheet. And I don't know too many that are looking at a cash flow statement. So what are some of your thoughts there? Is that one of the major challenges businesses face as well?
Well, it is. And we want to educate our clients into what it means, what these statements mean, how the balance sheet relates to the income statement, and what that means from a cash flow standpoint, because cash flow really is a central issue of all business. If cash flow is stable, then we can operate and we can do things and we can make decisions based on profitability rather than cash flow. But that's what we find a lot of it. It's easy to spend money in a business, and it becomes hard to make it sometimes. And so what we try to do is to focus on those areas that are profitable and to help them trim expenses where they can and teach them about wealth. Creating wealth is a long-term situation. In this country, with the tax code as it is, it's very difficult to create wealth in the short run. We have entertainers that may make $2 million a year, but they're going to owe tax on that.
Sure.
And many of them don't want to pay tax. Certainly they don't want to pay tax on that, and it becomes an issue. And many of them haven't paid taxes for many years, and we try to help them navigate those issues. But it's one of those things. It's a necessary. It's part of the law of the land, and we have to honor that. And so explaining that to our clients makes us the bad guy many times. And so yeah, but we try to provide the solid advice, and they need to plan for it.
So certainly one of the major challenges is taxes as well, which kind of takes me into also maybe what some of the common pitfalls that many business owners face. Separate from the challenges, what are some of the common pitfalls that business owners face from your experience?
One of the major pitfalls that we find is that they do not classify employees as employees. They classify them as subcontractors. And this leads to a variety of problems, and the savings is really minimal. Yes, you save the Social Security taxes on there at 7.65, and you save some unemployment taxes, but really it's under 10%. But the issues that it creates are major for the employee. One, because he doesn't normally pay his taxes on an estimated basis, and so they have tax issues. But also they're limited to as to the coverage. Ran into a situation last week where a young lady was working for a hospital and was an independent contractor. A patient came in that she was working on who had a stroke, turned around, had another stroke. The hospital got sued, and she now cannot work because she's an independent contractor, did not have coverage of the hospital. Had she been an employee, things would go along as normal. But now, since she's an independent contractor, she she can't work in the field that she was trained to work in. And that's a very difficult situation. So the insurance coverage is not there. So what we try to stress, though, is let's limit our downside. There's some costs we have to incur, but those are costs to protect the downside that we look at.
Now, you and I are both baby boomers. There is a lot of baby boomers that are getting ready to exit their businesses. I think it's estimated maybe 12 million or so baby boomer business owners are going to be exiting in the next couple of decades. But I know you do help your clients with either ownership issues, succession issues, again, part of getting that structured. So comment a little bit on how you've been working with some of your baby boomer clients on those succession issues.
It gets back to the fact of what their ultimate objectives are. If they've got family members, we typically want to sell that inside the family if we can. I did read something the other day. It made a good point. It said your net worth in retirement is not nearly as important as your income stream. And so what we try to do then is to structure that so that it doesn't bankrupt the business or kill the business, but it provides an income stream to an owner who's exiting over a longer period of time.
Sure. That's a great point. So, Gary, if someone listening wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
My phone number is 404-271-7190. And the best email address is gclayton@superiormgmtinc.com. That's Superior Business Management's email address.
Gary, it's been a delight to have you on the show. Appreciate your experience and your expertise. This is a critical area for business owners, as you and I both know. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Before we leave, I just want to spend a minute talking to my listeners. These days, when we don't know the answer to a question, we often quickly turn to the internet. We think, just Google it. One of the most Googled financial questions is about insurance and estate planning. Most people are familiar with these for their personal life, but when you own a business, there are several additional layers involved that are important to consider. The business owner needs to be concerned with life, health, disability, and liability insurance for both the business itself and personally. I have many business owner clients that have done personal planning only to borrow a significant amount of money with the bank, and that risk is not insured, which can leave a gap in coverage with the death of the owner. If you're in your 50s or 60s, you're more likely to become disabled and no longer to be able to work than you are to die. So consider insuring your buy-sell agreement with disability insurance too as an added precaution. For liability insurance, if a business owner has significant wealth inside and outside their business, it's common for that owner to carry an umbrella liability policy in the amount of their net worth to protect their assets in the case of a lawsuit. Another piece of planning is covering the cost of long-term care in your retirement. I've seen situations where the cost of nursing home or assisted living care can take a large bite out of your retirement nest egg due to lack of planning. Just like you have a CPA to help with taxes, it might make sense to have someone help you determine your insurance planning needs as well. If you want to keep up with the latest in pro-business news, follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram at The Profitability Coach. If you want to listen to past or future ProfitSense episodes, you can find us on ProfitSenseRadio.com. This is ProfitSense with Bill McDermott signing off. Make it a great day.